Why? Because a great public higher education system, the University of California as it once was, aroused in the public as a whole a desire for higher education. A desire for education, not merely as a means of self-betterment in an economic sense, but as a means of self-improvement in a broader moral, political sense. It's a central element in the political culture of California that higher education is the name of a desire. It is the name of a desire which is a public desire. It is a desire that the public now feels as a lack. And producing the desire for higher education, which I still feel in all of my classes, and I feel it especially in my freshman class, is part of the way in which UC changed the state and the way in which a UC education can still change people. It is a desire to be changed, to be surprised, to be addressed, which is what people want from higher education. And UC's specific role in the state and in the higher education system of the master plan is unlike other welfare services. It claimed to actually be better than the best and equal to the best anyway. Better than the best because it also served a public purpose. And it's still an article of faith by many Californians that UC is still great, and even greater because of the values it represents than private universities that I attended. Now, my underlying argument is that everyone in the UC system, not just people on my side, but proponents of privatization, rely upon the public's willingness to believe that UC's values have not changed. What they're saying is that it simply needs new sources of funding to do what it has always done. You need to say that this is a lie. You need to say that Californians must know that a tuition-dependent UC, a debt-funded UC, will have its priorities driven by financial markets rather than by its citizens. And that those of us who oppose UC's present run toward privatization can, will, must believe in California's willingness to say, if UC is still good, what's good about it is that it's still public. The time is ripe for a fundamental change in UC's priorities. It's ripe for a return to the original vision of public higher education as an engine of both equality and advancement. We can only be for UC in the broadest sense by marching against UC's leadership when we go to Sacramento and when we speak throughout the state. I therefore call upon you to keep the protests alive.
I know some of you may need to go to class or whatever, but if those of you can stay and want to ask questions, we have plenty of time. Any questions or discussion?
Should we maybe take a break or something to excuse the people who need to leave and we stay?
Are we taking questions?
Well, just a second. Let people who need to leave. But I do hope we can have this. And if people have been waiting for chairs, okay, Seneca?
Let me move forward. So I guess my question is if you were a UCI student, this is a difficult question, of course, but those are always the best ones. If you're a UCI student, what would be the best way that you would feel that we should demand from UC some of the things we're talking about, and we envision these priorities?
Well,
what's the best way for us?
We try, what we can do, what people like me and my colleagues, Stan Glantz, so forth, can do, is to provide tools. So what we've actually done is to illustrate how much of a tuition rollback could be provided for how much of an increase in state funding. We could all go and demand that the regions promise to make that rollback in return. You know very well what instructional cuts have been made on the grounds that the state forced those cuts on your campus administration. Has your campus administration said that reversing those cuts would be its highest priority if it got more money? No. You can make them promise. UC has promised nothing in return for getting more money. It has simply stood on the shoulders of you, the protesters, in order to get money that it will use exactly the way it has used the money it already has. Namely, to go headlong in the direction of subsidizing activities that are further and further from instruction. Why can't we hold UC, why can't you hold UC accountable for what it will do with the money and say, that's a very good argument for the state to give it the money. We now know how the money will be used. We're now essentially getting back the public mission. And that will be a test of whether UC really wants to get back the public mission, or whether it's simply willing to take more money from the state if it can keep doing what it's doing anyway.